Hi there, and welcome to Darwin, the capital of Australia's Northern Territory and the most northern population centre in the country. These days, I think it's safe to say that Darwin is often overlooked as a destination unto itself, but for the first half of the 20th century, it was a place that couldn't be missed, quite literally. The dawn of aviation, and more specifically, the effort to reach far-off lands by plane, made Darwin a necessity. It was the gateway to Australia by air. Today, we're going to continue with my Routes and Hubs tour based on the original Kangaroo route, and I thought it would be fitting to leave Darwin in the most classic way that I could, these days at least, in a 35-year-old turboprop. So we have an Air North trip report and a deep dive into Darwin coming up. Darwin is now the hub for today's airline, Air North. They began commercial scheduled operations in 1981 with a small fleet of Beechcraft Super King Airs and DC-3s. For the next 2 decades, they built up a reputation for being a reliable regional airline in the top end of Australia. But don't get the wrong idea. This has always been a very small operation. So, for those of you that are new here, I'm Kevin, the Flip Flop Traveler. If I want you to know one thing, it's that the opinions in my videos are honest and my own. If you'd like to know more about the what, how, and why I do what I do, scan the QR code to read more. Have a look around the channel. There are hundreds of flights and hotel reviews to watch. This truly exotic journey to Dili starts now. I don't do automatic phone time zone updates, or at least I didn't until this day. And considering we flew due north yesterday from Adelaide to Darwin, it never occurred to me that there would be an hour's time difference. So, here I am at Darwin's International Airport, completely on my own at 3 a.m. The airport is around a 15 to 20 minute drive from the Esplanade in downtown Darwin. As for Air North, in 1999 they began their first international service to Dili in East Timor, also known as Timor-Leste, today's destination, on behalf of the UN Transitional Administration in East Timor, and to this day it remains Air North's only international flight. They currently fly to 17 other domestic locations and have a small fleet of 8 aircraft. 5 Embraer E120 Brasilias, which will be on today, as well as 3 ERJ 170s, those are regional jets. As we have a look around the small airport facilities, let's explore how Darwin found itself on the map. Following World War I, the Australian government got wind of the fact that there were several Australian aviators wanting to return to Australia by flying instead of traveling by sea. In an effort to bring attention to boost their aviation chops, the government offered a prize of £10,000 to the first Australian team who was able to fly from England to Australia in 30 days or less. Multiple teams began preparing, but none seemed to be as determined as the Smith brothers, Sirs Ross Macpherson and Keith Macpherson Smith. They, along with their crews, converted a Vickers Vimy, a plane that the British Royal Air Force used as a bomber, into racing material. On November 12, 1919, they took off from a snowy Hounslow Aerodrome, near today's Heathrow Airport, but it was certainly not a spur-of-the-moment flight. Despite this being a race, it took months of preparations, even for the smallest of details. For example, applying for landing permission in Bangkok 3 months in advance. This is the actual route that was flown and the original planned timetable. Though they planned to make it in 25 days, weather and other factors took that up to 28. Along the way, stopping in Cairo, Bandar Abbas, Karachi, Kolkata, Rangoon, Surabaya, and many others, receiving nothing short of a hero's welcome at nearly every single stop. On December 10, 1919, their plane was spotted approaching Darwin from the HMAS Sydney, and they landed a couple hours later. After 135 hours in the air, they landed in Darwin, with nearly the entire Darwin population there to greet them. Among them was the Northern Territory Administrator, Stanford Smith, and Lieutenant Hudson Fysh. The following year, these two went on to found Queensland and Northern Territory Aerial Service, or as we know it today, Qantas. In my Brisbane video, I mentioned that the Northern Territories were in the airline's name because it represented their desire to fly from Darwin to far-off lands. Well, this moment is what inspired all of that. That same aircraft, if you'd believe it, is now on permanent display at Adelaide Airport. You may be asking, why didn't I show it in my Adelaide video? Well, after an hour on the phone with Qantas while they're dealing with all of that other crap, I didn't have time to head over, knowing I still had to film an actual trip report. So, next time. So that's part of the reason why Darwin will forever be Australia's original gateway. Even decades later, when more and more modern planes were operating the route, they would still have to stop for a refuel stop in Darwin. Here we can see a BOAC aircraft doing just that in 1958. Okay, let's get this exotic little flight in the air. It's all a bit of an informal process here, even considering it's an international flight. Let's take a look at today's flight stats. Even before the sun was up, we were escorted to our waiting aircraft by our flight attendant. If you'd like to follow along with my Roots and Hubs journey from Brisbane to London, but aren't free at the times that I post, bookmark the playlist linked in the description so you'll be able to follow along whenever it's best time for you. And here we are on board. There are a total of 30 seats in a 2-1 configuration, except for the last row, which has 4 across. I'll give you a mini tour as soon as the sun has risen. The interiors certainly show their age, but I'd say it's more of a throwback age than a shabby, completely worn out age. Air North doesn't allow seat assignments until you physically check in, especially on routes like this to balance the weight. While there were only 9 of us flying today, which I do believe is a record for this channel, we were spread across just 4 rows. Also, one note about carry-ons. There's absolutely no way something larger than a medium-sized backpack can fit, and their own regulation is 1 small item up to 5 kilos. Checked baggage was free though. So yeah, despite the fact that it was tight on board, it was a very comfortable flight, helped out by the fact that the windows were at a great eye-level height. I've always found it odd how larger turboprops like an ATR 72 feel extremely cramped, like they're just not enjoyable to be in. But then you get a little tiny turboprop like this and it actually feels cozy. The safety demo was performed as we started up our second engine, and soon we were headed for the runway for this early morning takeoff. The first of around 7 Air North flights per day from Darwin. Told you it was small. It was on autoplay. I was multitasking. I was feeding my flying fox. These are all real reasons, kinda, why I often forget to click the like button on videos that I actually did like. So anytime a creator asks to click the subscribe button or like the video, I do it in that moment, because otherwise I'm gonna forget, mark my words. Grassroots support is what keeps channels going, much more so than any algorithm ever could. So if you enjoyed this video today, be sure to click all the buttons, but only the good ones please. My Patreon is also linked in the description below. Thanks very much. Okay, the spool up, takeoff, and airport stats are coming up next. to take quite a bit of planning on my end to coordinate this, but this flight did nothing but make me want to plan a trip that is only on non-mainstream aircraft. After a few minutes in the air, the sun came up and we were served a bit of a snack. Emphasis on the bit. And look at that beautiful engine. And I had a check of the minuscule restroom, if you could even call it that. It is kind of cool though that they have a wind... There's nothing really to see. I couldn't come close to standing up straight. There was no sink or hand sanitizer or anything. It was lovely. The views though. The views coming into East Timor were absolutely breathtaking. Dili is on the north shore of the island, so we'd be flying over the full country to get there. If you didn't know, East Timor is a tiny Portuguese-speaking nation which shares a small island with Indonesia and has a population of around 1.3 million, which is actually quite a bit higher than I imagined. Okay, I'm just gonna let you enjoy this gorgeous descent into Dili. We landed, deplaned, and I gave the immigration officials quite a shock. I was transiting. but I knew I needed a visa on arrival, no problem. Had my $30 in hand, but there was a sign above the visa desk that said transit visas were only $20, so that's what I asked for. Let me tell you, I caused quite the commotion, not in a bad way, when they found out that I was self-transiting to a CityLink flight later that afternoon. I'm pretty sure I may have been the first person to ever do this based on their reactions. But everyone was as friendly as could be. If only the airport had an ATM or currency exchange or credit card machines or Wi-Fi or running water. But hey, those who make strange flight decisions shouldn't complain when they get exactly what they paid for. So, I really do hope that you enjoyed this historic trip report today. It was a joy to make, and if you're interested in more information, I'd highly suggest visiting the State Library of Southern Australia's website, which has more documentation of all of this than any other source that I found. If you did like this video, be sure to click the like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out my twice-weekly videos. I'll see you next time from what might be the most truly underrated resort in Bali, the Hyatt Regency. Oh, and as always, thanks for watching until the end.